Metro South Chamber of Commerce. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Chamber's 107th annual meeting via Zoom. More than ever, it's important to come together and celebrate accomplishment and success. Over the next hour or so, we will recognize several businesses and community leaders who have contributed their time, positively impacted their communities, and invested their resources to make the Metro South region a better place. Although we must be apart from one another and away from the wonderful lunch Chef Charles Herman planned for today, I want you to know more than 250 lunches are being delivered in the weeks ahead to Brockton-based healthcare workers serving on the front lines of this pandemic. These meals are a wonderful way to show support and appreciation to the many extraordinary people providing care to those most impacted. This gesture, made possible by generous sponsors and your decision to participate in this annual meeting, also benefits the culinary arts program at Teen Challenge and assists the Chamber of Commerce with revenues as we close out this fiscal year. On the heels of Veterans Day and at this time of Thanksgiving, please accept our sincere thanks and join me in a moment of silence as we think of and thank those who wear the uniform and serve our great nation. Thank you very much. Before I introduce the Mayor of Brockton to say a few words, I would like to thank our largest sponsors for today's event. I ask these sponsors to accept our sincere appreciation for their steadfast support of the Chamber through these uncertain times. Our premier sponsor is Sharon Crescent United Credit Union, or also known as CSU. With us today is President and CEO James Carlson, as well as Richard Hook, Vice President of Business Development, as well as several members of the SCU team. I really want to thank you, Jim, and Rich, for stepping up once again, despite this pandemic, and supporting this program and the Chamber at the level you have. It's extraordinary. I also want to thank our major sponsors. We have two. UMass Donahue Institute under the leadership of Eric Heller, and I see Eric is on the line. Thank you, Eric, very much for your steadfast support of the Chamber. He's joined by John Murray, Director of Mass Hire, Greater Brockton Career Center, which operates right here across the street from the Chamber and the City Hall. I also want to mention another major sponsor, and he has been a stalwart supporter of the Chamber, and that's our own Fred Clark, Bridgewater State University's president and CEO. Bridgewater has stepped up for a few years now in helping the Chamber with programs like this. We want to mention some of our elected and appointed officials we have with us here today as well. I know on the call, and we have, it's growing closer to 150 people now. We want to mention some of them that are here. So State Representative Claire Cronin, although we couldn't fit everybody on the panelist screen, we do want to mention these folks. Dottie Fulganetti, Chair of the Easton Select Board. Margaret LaForest from the Massachusetts Office of Business Development. Susan Whitaker from the Massachusetts Office of Business Development. Rita Mendez, City Councilor at Large for the City of Brockton. Susan Nicastro, also City Councilor from the City of Brockton. Sean P. George, Bridgewater Town Council President. Eli Speyu from the United States Small Business Administration. Diane Darling from the U.S. Small Business Administration. Frank Bassler, Administrator of the Plymouth County. Steve McAllister from the United States Chamber of Commerce. Peter Godfrey from the SCORE chapter. Mary Waldron from Old Colony Planning Council. Sheila Sullivan Jardim from Mass Hire Greater Brockton Workforce Board. Robert Jenkins from the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. And I know there's many others that are joining us. Those are the folks that we could get on our list today. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of Brockton, Robert Sullivan, to say a few words. The Mayor is a lifelong resident of Brockton, where he graduated from Brockton High School and went on to earn degrees from Boston College and New England School of Law. He previously served as an at-large city councilor for 14 years and was sworn in as Brockton's 50th mayor just weeks before the COVID pandemic was declared. It's been a pleasure to work with him as we have together briefed business and community leaders via regular COVID recovery and response Zoom calls. His steady, consistent, and professional approach has done much to assist businesses and residents as they calmly navigate toward a better place. Please join me in welcoming the Mayor of Brockton, Robert Sullivan. Hi, Mayor.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. Thanks, Fred. I appreciate that. I don't get that in my house, so thank you for clapping. Listen, I just want to thank Chris and his leadership at the Metro South Chamber of Commerce and everybody that's participating today. It really is a pleasure to be here at the annual meeting. And The Chamber of Commerce is just a wonderful, wonderful partner, very responsive and truly, truly a partner as we continue our efforts during this time of COVID. So although we're doing it via Zoom, I would rather, be sitting together in person. But next year, we will do that next year. And first, it's really, I want to say it's great to see that so many businesses and organizations have come together in collaboration during the pandemic. I mean, every action that you're taking is slowing the virus. It saves lives and helps prevent our health care facilities locally here and their staffs from really being overwhelmed. As I sit here right now, the detrimental impact that COVID has played here in the City of Champions is 309 deaths, 626 current cases, and almost at 6,000 now. We're at 5,908 total cases. So I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the measures to continue to help in this fight. Truly, your leadership and engagement is essential as we attempt to prevent infections before that vaccine, that long-awaited vaccine, can be administered. And let me also say it's been a pleasure to participate in the Chamber's regular COVID resources and recovery calls, along with state, and thank you, Chris, for acknowledging all the other elected officials, the state and federal business assistance officials. I think it's been 36 or 37 weeks now. We've held these Friday afternoon calls with MOBD and USSBA, and it's great to see the partnership and the participation in these calls because we are truly navigating uncharted waters. And the results have been terrific, truly terrific in terms of numbers of grants and loans and other resources delivered to our small businesses in the City of Brockton and our neighboring communities as well. So I do want to congratulate the businesses today who are being recognized. Half of the award winners are from the City of Champions, the City of Brockton. And I'm just going to say a job well done. I really, really am impressed by your determination to strive during time of uncertainty. So it's important to encourage businesses by planning for our future beyond the pandemic, because we all know we're going to get through this pandemic. We just don't know when that's going to be. So we have to create the building blocks for success now. So when that day comes, a long-awaited day comes, we're going to have really people running out of the gates and searching for that finish line. And that's appropriate because of our guest tonight. So I want you all to know that the City of Brockton is always open for business. I mean that. We're a business-friendly community. And during the pandemic, I made a determination not to close construction, and it's paid off dividends. And we need to continue to be safe and practice the health standards. But there's so many new development going on right now in the city and in many more ways. I want businesses, investors to succeed and grow here and be nurtured here because the synergy is right. And I've said this, you've heard it, Fred's heard it, Chris has heard it, many of the members of the board have said it, but if Brockton was a stock, we should all be buying that stock because it's going to pay off. The return on investment is going to be unbelievable. So to each and every one of you on this call that lead organizations, lead educational facilities, run businesses that are small, mid, major businesses, your success and growth really contributes to the vibrant fabric of the region. You employ people and strengthen our quality of life and truly our tax base, which is extremely important for the City of Brockton. So I just want to let you know that I've made a pledge to continue to work to reopen the Shaw Center. I said this last year when I stood on the podium, and we're doing that right now. We actually have construction going on right now at the Shaw Center. So as mayor, I look forward to having so many more businesses returning to programs within the City of Brockton at the Shaw Center and beyond. But I just want people to know that the Shaw Center, which has been a value venue for many, many, many years, it's just offline right now, but we're bringing that bad boy back online sooner than later. So rest assured on that. And finally, I just want to say I'm truly, truly delighted to have Dave McGillivray here on the call today as the guest speaker, a true champion in his own right. I want to welcome him to the City of Champions. The Boston Marathon is something that has been his brainchild and his passion. His personal professional stories are going to be inspirational, and I look forward to hearing them. His advocacy of health through sport is extraordinary, and his spirit of philanthropy is truly admirable. It's a pleasure to have him on the call today, and I yearn for the day when I can have him come to the City of Brockton, visit the City of Brockton, and have an in-person sit down, and I hope that will be sooner than later. So who knows, Dave, maybe we can put together a program fostering your skills with the history of the City of Champions, the accomplishments and the passion of sport here. And On a personal note, I just want to say that I was fortunate to run the 100th anniversary back in '96 of Boston. And as a proud Boston College Eagle, double Eagle, the best part of that run was coming down Chestnut Hill and seeing those dedicated students. So again, on behalf of everybody on this call, everybody within the city of Brockton that lives here, that works here, I just want to wish each and every one of you and your families a big welcome Thanksgiving. Be safe. Please be safe. Be happy. And again, thank you for every day, what each and every one of you do. You truly are champions in your own right. God bless you all and stay safe. And thank you again, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the chairperson of the Chamber's Board of Directors and our MC for today. We are very fortunate to have his positive influence and his extraordinary leadership. Please join me in welcoming Fred Clark, President of Bridgewater State University. Fred.
Thank you very much, Chris, and distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, delighted to be here as we celebrate so many positive people like the mayor and places throughout the region. Mr. Mayor, I do want to say thank you very much for your heroic leadership during this pandemic. We've witnessed it on a day-by-day and a week-by-week basis. And I'm sure many of us wonder, how were you able to pivot so quickly just weeks into your new job as mayor? It's been remarkable. I know you haven't had a day off, and I just want to say on behalf of everyone on the call, well done. Kudos to you and your team. We're proud of you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome. And to all of you on the Zoom call, we appreciate your participation today and your support of the Chamber of Commerce as we together face this pandemic and plan for the rebuilding of our businesses and our economy. It was one of the very first governors of Massachusetts, John Winthrop, as noted in the recently released Massachusetts Chronicles, published in celebration of the Pilgrim's Landing 400 years ago, who said, "For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us." That quote, also used by JFK, holds various meanings to listeners of different generations. And to me, it captures a moment in time and the chance to collectively contemplate a changed landscape while a new normal is anticipated. We must all consider how this situation will cause innovative thinking to be fostered, existing trends accelerated, and maybe efficiencies realized. Though uncertainty currently reigns, what we all might recognize is every city on a hill is sure to have cloudy days. The key for each of us is to find the silver lining and to make the most of this opportunity. A proactive pivot might just be the spark that energizes and sets you on a new path to prosperity in a post-pandemic world. We can all look forward to a time when the benefit of hindsight will reveal the progress we each have made during this time, and it will be most evident. What we know for certain is that together we can achieve much more than any of us working alone. So let's remain committed to each other and to the Chamber as we weather this uncertainty and anticipate a truly brighter future. Today, we celebrate the investment of so many businesses in the face of this uncertainty. Coming up a little later in the hour, we will be reminded of the importance of perseverance as our guest speaker, Dave McGillivray, speaks to us about his experiences as well. But for right now, we will celebrate local business leaders and companies for their shared contribution to the economic vitality of the region. We want to thank them and congratulate them all in advance. One business that comes to mind and deserves recognition is Fusion Dolls. Although the Brockton-based business is not receiving an award today, I do want to recognize their unique contribution. Owner Widline Parami grew up in Haiti and immigrated to Brockton, where she developed her business, handmaking black dolls to better reflect the diversity of Haiti and the world. Widline is committed to improving the self-image of little girls through the development of this business. Fusion Dolls has shipped dozens of donated black dolls to Haiti recently to get them into the arms of little girls who are absolutely delighted to receive them. It's my pleasure to announce that the Chamber is purchasing, through the proceeds of this annual meeting, a dozen handmade black dolls for distribution in the Brockton area. Here's one of them right here. I hope you can see that. There we go. The one I have here is dressed in medical scrubs and will be delivered to the Brockton Neighborhood Health Center to be given to a future patient to maybe provide a little bit of comfort. Thank you very much, Fusion Dolls. In addition to this donation of dolls, the Chamber has purchased 20 gift cards to local dining establishments and grocery stores in support of them. during this incredible time of uncertainty. These 20 gift cards will be awarded randomly to those on this Zoom call today. And the Chamber staff will utilize very sophisticated random number generator and inform the winners at the conclusion of today's program. We're delighted to promote these businesses, and maybe now more than ever, we hope to remind you to shop and dine locally in support of those businesses. The Chamber's strength and commitment is a reflection of the leadership and health of our members. Fortunately, the Metro South Chamber has had a string of strong board leadership and innovative staff over the years. This is reflected in the Chamber's most recent annual financial audit that reflects a very strong fund balance and sufficient reserves in anticipation of the year ahead. That's not the case at most chambers, I'll let you know. But it's also evident through the quick transition made in the early days of the pandemic to provide timely, relevant, and effective chamber programming via remote technology. In addition to existing programs, several new offerings have been added, such as weekly small business networking via Zoom and regular COVID business recovery and resource calls featuring local, state, and federal resources. The Chamber recorded 18 of these sessions, as well as numerous panel discussions and featured topic interviews, and posted all of them on the Chamber's YouTube channel for easy reference. I do want to take this time to thank our Chamber President, Chris Cooney, for his steady leadership during the pandemic and for being such a terrific resource for our employer community. He really is the very best Chamber executive around, and I want him to know that we're all very proud of him. Congratulations, Chris. Thank you for your leadership. At this time, I'm pleased to present the report of the nominating committee for 2020. The slate was officially elected at the October Board of Directors meeting. Nominated and elected to the class of 2021, David Texera, the mattress maker of New England. Jenny Mather, JM Pet Resort. Carol Chin, a McDonald's franchisee. Kelly Mallory, Mallory Headsets, and Donald Donaldson, Beantown Builders. Congratulations to those nominated and elected to the class of 2021. Nominated and elected to the class of 2022, Joe Casey, Harbor One Bank. Friend Weiler, consultant. Matthew Osborne, Eastern Bank. Masa Kanbabi, Kanbabi Immigration and Law. Rich Spencer from Northeastern Savings Bank. Again, congratulations to those nominated and elected to the class of 2022. Nominated and elected to the class of 2023. Michelle Cinquigrano, Verizon. Dan Evans, Evans Machine. Dr. Maricela Marrero, Good Samaritan Medical Center. Rich Hines, Barber Corporation. Jay Pike, CPA at Citron Cooperman. And Greg Hart, CPA at Summer Street Financial. Congratulations to those nominated and elected to the class of 2023. The following were elected as and will serve as officers of the Chamber. Our incoming chairman, Joe Casey. President and CEO, Chris Cooney. Chair-elect, Richard Hines. And treasurer, Greg Hart, CPA. The vice chair of our Economic Development Division, Dan Evans. Vice chair of Membership Development, Friend Weiler. Vice chair of Community Affairs, Masa Kanbabi. Vice chair of Government Affairs, George Spilios. And past chairman, myself, Fred Clark's the easiest job. Happy to take it. So how about a round of applause for all of our folks elected to these classes and to our incoming officers. Well done. Thank you, folks. A special part of our annual meeting is the presentation of recognition awards. Each award recipient has already received via special delivery a wonderful plaque in honor of their accomplishment. I will ask those recipients, those that we can see anyway, to hold up their awards when we call their name. Our first presentation honors board members who are completing their maximum years of service on the board, and there's 3 of them. Joseph Cardinal, National Grid. Pat Chiaramella, Old Colony Planning Council, and he's recently retired. And Jerry Nadal, from Rockland Trust. On behalf of the Chamber, I want to thank you, Joe, Pat, and Jerry, for your impactful service and for providing a powerful example of leadership for all of us to follow. Thank you so much for your service to the Chamber. How about a round of applause for our folks that are maximum years of service. Our next presentation honors those who have earned the 2020 Metro South Economic Impact Award. And today we honor 10 companies who've made a significant economic impact in the region, creating jobs and adding to our rich business culture by providing valuable products, resources, and services to help our region thrive. Combined, these businesses have invested millions of dollars and added housing units, commercial space, and most importantly, jobs. Each award recipient and their accomplishments are featured in the upcoming action report, printed and distributed by the Enterprise newspaper. I ask each recipient, as I call your name, to give a wave and show us your award. Metro South Chamber of Commerce is pleased to present the Economic Impact Award to the first 5 recipients. And acting on behalf of JM Pet Resort is Jenny Mather. You out there, Jenny? Congratulations. Massasoit Community College, my friend and colleague, Dr. Gina Glickman.
Thank you.
Welcome. Congratulations. McDonald's of Brockton at Belmont, Carol Chin. Planet Fitness of Stoughton, Denzel Chappelle. Rosen Realty, Rich Rosen. You out there, Rich? Rich is there. Normally we'd be taking a picture at this point, but we're going to have to imagine that. And we're going to move on to our next 5 recipients. Accepting on behalf of them, the first is Salisbury Properties, Stephen Salisbury. Congratulations, Stephen. Somewhere Else Tavern, that's a great name, by the way, Laurie Cook. South Shore Property Management, Geoffrey Anatole. Stoughton House of Brews, Greg Morgan. And finally, your CBD store in Braintree, Lynn Hart. Congratulations to each of our award winners. Thank you so much for investing your business in our area and for your service to the Metro South region. That looks great. Those are great awards. Congratulations. Our final recognition award, which is given out every year, is the Charles A. Fuller Memorial Chamber Award. The late Mr. Fuller had served as chair of the board of the chamber for years and was very dedicated to our organization and to the community. He's a legend and a pillar. And this award recognizes an individual whose leadership performance, personal example, and good influence has done the most to advance the welfare of Metro South Chamber and of our community. We're very proud to announce that this year's recipient is Eli Spehu. Eli joined the U.S. Small Business Administration, Massachusetts District Office in June 2015. He brings a wealth of knowledge from the private sector, having worked for various banks, credit unions, and alternative lenders. Eli supervises the Capital Access Field Operations team and is responsible for all SBA lending activity in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He is the point of contact for over 250 SBA participating lenders in the state. Eli provides lender training on various SBA topics and works closely with the SBA's Office of Credit Risk Management on lender oversight and program compliance. Eli is a seasoned and highly skilled finance professional with extensive experience in commercial lending. He earned his BA in Public Administration and a Master of Science in Finance degree, both from Clark University. No relation, by the way, Eli. And most importantly, for so many of our chamber lenders and small business members, Eli is our chamber's direct point of contact for the United States Small Business Administration. Eli, from the earliest stages of this pandemic, has been on the Chamber's COVID resources and recovery calls every week. He's answered hundreds of questions and assisted thousands of businesses and organizations, encouraging them along the way to apply for grants, PPP forgivable loans, and SBA financing. Eli has proven to be a bright light, guiding the way for so many businesses in the Metro South region. Eli was born in Albania and currently lives in Worcester with his family, where he founded the Albanian American Association and the Albanian School. In addition to his work at the SBA, he has volunteered to help numerous women, minority, and immigrants start and grow their businesses one at a time. We are truly pleased and honored to present the Charles A. Fuller Memorial Chamber Service Award to a true champion of business and to the community, Eli Spahu. Congratulations, Eli, and we're happy to give you a chance to say a few words.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I am truly humbled to be honored with this great recognition, and you know, it is a privilege, and I want to thank the Chamber. I want to thank you know, you guys for recognizing, you know, the work that public servants do. The Small Business Administration Massachusetts District Office is truly, you know, it lives up to its name. We're a small group of 12 people, and you know, this year specifically, due to the pandemic, you know, we were put on the spotlight, and just, you know, pleased to have been able to help so many small businesses here in Massachusetts. You know, I have shared numbers week in and out with the, you know, with the various partners of the SBA, as far as the progress on the various programs we had at the SBA, and you know, just glad that we're able, you know, to help so many small businesses in need. But it has been, you know, my privilege working all these years for the SBA and meeting so many small business owners, by far, you know, the hardest working people that you can think of. And it has been, you know, it has been a very, you know, rewarding time, despite it being, you know, us being in a pandemic, to be able, you know, to help those small businesses a little bit, perhaps. You know, I know that some of the programs were you know, were insignificant for some businesses, and they made a world of difference for others, of course. But it has been, you know, it has been truly, you know, a busy time, and a trying time for us all. I just wanted to, you know, you mentioned that, you know, I grew up in Albania, and my accent, you know, that gives it away fairly easy. But for the Chamber to recognize me with this great honor, you know, I'm truly humbled. And I have to tell you that I'm a U.S. Citizen by choice, right? So I was an adult when I came here, and I truly believe in the greatness of this country. I gave up, you know, my Albanian citizenship, and you know, gave my oath to the Constitution of the country. And I tell my children, who are now 15, you know, teenagers, my twins, that, you know, this is the best country on earth, and deserving of the very best we can all, you know, give to it. So, you know, it's been the history, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, of this great nation to embrace newcomers, you know, for the 400-year history from the Pilgrim landing, and we're so close to Thanksgiving, right? To embrace newcomers, to empower them to reach their full potential. And you know, this is really one of those times where, you know, I can honestly tell again my children that this is, you know, what makes us great. We are a great people, and we, you know, we appreciate, you know, what each one of us does, and together, again, we'll make it through this challenging time. So thank you, greatly appreciate it.
Well, congratulations to you, Eli. It's well deserved. Thank you for those reminders about our country and just how amazing it is and how wonderful it is. And congratulations on behalf of the entire chamber. As I said, you deserve it. Well, I'm down to my final minute or two as chair of this great Chamber of Commerce. And as a son of Brockton myself, who grew up in my early years on Warren Ave, it's really honestly difficult for me to describe fully just how incredibly honored I've been to chair this great chamber, to work with all of you, to work with Chris Cooney. I just want to say that it's been a pleasure working with everyone on each Zoom square and beyond, and truly it's been a privilege. And it's now my pleasure to welcome our new chair of the Chamber of Commerce. And I want you to know, and I told him this, but I really tried hard to establish an impossibly high level of leadership, impossible to replicate as chair. But I'm pretty confident that our next chair will have no difficulty in setting the bar even higher. Please join me in welcoming Joe Casey, President and COO of Harbor One Bank, as the Chamber's new chair. Here you go, Joe.
Thank you, Fred. And thank you on behalf of the entire board in the chamber for your outstanding leadership over the last 2 years, especially during this COVID environment. Your leadership was right at the very beginning in making sure that the chamber remained very strong and able to support the business community. So we're very thankful for your last 2 years of service, and looking forward to your ongoing guidance as we continue through these difficult times. Your record of success at Bridgewater State University, while also guiding the chamber, is truly impressive. We appreciate all you've done for the chamber, and as a token of our appreciation, hopefully you have received a wonderful chair.
There it is, Joe. I already put it to work.
That chair's been handcrafted, inscribed with your name, years that you have served as chairman. So we are very thankful.
Well, it's a beautiful chair, Joe. Thank you so much. It looks great in the office. I'm glad it's not a rocking chair. I'm not ready for that yet. And I know it's going to be a great experience for you. And please call on me anytime. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you. Again, Fred, first allow me to say how pleased I am to be serving in this capacity. I have worked for the last 20 years in the financial industry south of Boston, spending the last 17 years at Harbor One in an executive role. Prior to that, I was down at a bank in New Bedford for several years. So I have enjoyed my last 20 years down here living with my family and raising our children. Most days, until recently, with a lot of remote working, I've spent most of my time working out of the headquarters for Harbor One on Oak Street. And in addition to our Oak Street facility, we have 4 branches in Brockton. And most of you know that Harbor One has over 100-year history, starting as the Brockton Credit Union, headquartered and remains our most significant presence in the city of Brockton. I look forward to working collaboratively with many of you on this Zoom call as we look ahead and plan for post-COVID recovery. The Chamber is happy to welcome several new board members today, and the hope is to have an in-person board orientation and retreat in the months ahead. From my time here in Brockton and serving as the Chamber's board, on the Chamber board, I see the importance of Metro South Chamber of Commerce and its work, convening, connecting, communicating, and advocating for business and pro-business policies has never been more important. In fact, American democracy depends upon a strong free market economy that can create housing, build commercial development, hire workers, and support public infrastructure. As was mentioned earlier, by working together, we can achieve what none of us can alone. I look forward to working with all of you in the year ahead. And now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dave McGillivray. Dave is an athlete, author, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, philanthropist, and whose luckiest break may have come when he was cut from his high school basketball team. Fred doesn't know what that's all about. He had all the heart, but none of the height. It was that passion and drive, however, that would burn through him for the next 50 plus years as he continues to live by his motto, quote, "It's my game, so it's my rules," close quote. Shortly after graduating from as valedictorian from Merrimack College, his game, his rules would forever impact the running industry. In 1978, what Runner's World deemed the first instance of combining running and fundraising for cancer research, Dave ran 3,452 miles across the country from Medford, Oregon to Medford, Massachusetts, in an effort to raise $100,000 to benefit the Jimmy Fund, the philanthropic arm of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston. When he returned from that 80-day trek across the country, he was promptly fired from his job at a benefit consulting firm in Boston's Hancock Tower. It's clear now it was the best possible thing to have happened to him. He decided to open a running shoe store in his hometown, began to put on triathlons to promote the store, and a few years later, in 1981, he opened the doors to DMSE Inc. Since then, he and his team have managed nearly 1,100 mass participatory events, helping, as he truly believes, to raise the level of self-esteem and self-confidence of tens of thousands of people across America every year. They have collaborated on some of the most prestigious events in the country, including the Boston Marathon, 2 U.S. Olympic women's marathon trials, the TD Beach to Beacon 10K, the New Balance Falmouth Road Race, Bellin Run 10K, and the Atlanta Olympic Games, the Triathlon World Championship, and the Boston Marathon Jimmy Fund Walk. In the midst of all these athletic endeavors and race directing responsibilities, Dave was diagnosed with coronary artery disease, a condition he had always assumed wouldn't be an issue for him despite his family's medical history. When he received the news, he changed his diet, his sleeping and work habits, everything to reverse the condition. He made great strides, but it wasn't enough. 5 years after his diagnosis, and shortly after accomplishing another daring athletic feat, the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, his genetics were finally showing their strength. He needed triple bypass surgery. Faced with the choice to keep his condition a secret from the running community, he chose to share his experience with the world, urging others, especially the fittest of athletes, if you feel something, do something. His transformation from fit athlete to fit and healthy person have inspired others to seek counsel from their physicians, which may have saved countless lives. Please join me in welcoming Dave McGillivray. Dave?
Well, Joe, you just gave my speech. Anyone have any questions? That was awesome. That was probably the best introduction I've ever had. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. Let's see. Okay. Can folks see that? Hopefully.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, first of all, I just want to say congratulations to all the award winners. You know, as I sit and listen to the accomplishments of so many people on this call, it just makes me realize that each and every one of you could be sitting here where I am, giving a speech and being as if not more inspiring than what I might have to say. So congratulations to all of you. Also, you know, there is a silver lining in this pandemic because usually I'm standing on a stage with a podium in front of me and people can't see me. They can only see a talking head. And so we're all the same height on the Zoom call. So I like that. So, so I just, again, I'm humbled and appreciative. I want to thank the mayor, if he's still on, for the kind words, and Fred and Joe and Chris and Lexi for putting this all together. So the title of my presentation, as you can see, is Defining Moments. because in all of our lives, there are times when there are defining moments. Some are good, some might not be so good. What's going on in the world today, people can look at in a negative way, and that's a defining moment. Or you can spin it around and turn a negative into a positive and try to get the most out of it. So that's what this presentation's about. And when I was a young kid growing up in Medford, Mass, I wanted to be one thing and one thing only. I wanted to be an athlete. That's what I dreamed about. I dreamed about playing for the Celtics or playing for the Red Sox or playing for the Patriots. You know, those of us obviously living here in the greater Boston area, we're surrounded by pro sports. It's a passion of our community. So I wanted to be one of them. But unfortunately, I was, again, short in stature. So I was always the last one cut when I went out for, you know, the high school team, or I was always the last one picked when my friends would pick sides. And, you know, at the ripe old age of about 14 or 15, I learned a significant lesson, and that was the lesson about rejection. And, you know, for me, it was tough. I've always felt there's three types of pain. There's physical pain, there's mental pain, and then there's emotional pain. And the worst of the three is emotional pain, because you can train your body to almost do anything. You can train your mind to almost do anything. But emotionally, how do you train for that? So for me, to constantly get rejected and not be picked was devastating, to be quite honest with you. So when I was growing up, I didn't dream about being a race director, right? I dreamed about being an athlete. And that's my head on Larry Bird's body. And I think all of us can agree that we all have goals and aspirations in our lives. We all want to accomplish something. We all want to be somebody. We all want to make an impact. And so did I. But I early on, I wasn't given a chance. And that's all I think any of us ever want in life, is to be given a chance. So here's a picture of my high school basketball team, 1972. I asked people, which one in this picture is me? If you can point it out. And most people say, the guy bottom left. And I say, well, that's close. But the reality is none of them are me. I got cut. I'm not in the picture. That's the problem. I'm not there. And the coach, who's the guy up in the right-hand corner, he comes up to me, puts his arm around me. And again, he's no Bill Russell himself. And he looks at me and he said, Dave, if you were 5 inches taller, you'd be my starting guard. I thought, huh, coach? If I was 5 inches taller, I thought it had to do with ability level, not how tall you were. So I challenged the center to one-on-one, the guy number 30. He was 6'5", and I was 5'4", 0.387 on a good day. And I beat him. Another defining moment in my life. And I went home that night and I put a sign over my bed. Here's the sign. It said, please God, make me grow. Well, obviously, I mean, maybe he was on vacation or answering someone else's prayer, because he didn't make me grow. Or did he? And as I look back on my life and I say, you know, son of a gun, he did make me grow. He made me grow in so many other ways. He made me grow morally and ethically and spiritually and intellectually. And he made me grow internally. Because folks, that's really where it's happening. It's not who you are physically. It's who you are internally. What do you have inside? That's more important. So what did I start to do? I started to run. Why? Because no one can catch you from running. You just go run. So I've run about 150,000 miles since then. I've run 159 marathons. I've done the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii 9 times and run across the country a couple times and so forth and so on. So I started running, and for me, it was a different path. I wanted to be an athlete, and this was the way I was going to be an athlete. I chose a different way. And you know something? There's always a path. That's the lesson here. There's always a path. If you're passionate about something and you want it bad enough, you can accomplish anything in your life if you're willing to accept the sacrifices involved in getting there. And so that's what I did. So then I started doing this crazy thing, running my age on my birthday. When I was 12, I ran 12 miles, and 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15. You see the pattern, right? I just turned 66, ran 66 miles. People say to me all the time, what the heck are you going to do when you turn 90? I'm like, well, yeah, first of all, I want to be breathing. And then, yeah, I'll get out of bed. I don't know. Then I'll decide. I don't have to decide now what I'll do 20, 30 years from now. But I do have a motto in life, as Joe said, and my motto is, it's my game, so it's my rules. That's how I think everyone should live their lives. It's your life to live. You decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Don't let anyone else dictate to you what's important to you. So that's how I've lived my life. And so here I am running 60 miles on my 60th birthday. My game, my rules. Your game, your rules, your life. So then I heard about this thing called the Boston Marathon. And my grandfather was a supporter of my athleticism. He lived in the projects in Brighton, right in Coolidge Corner in Boston. And I called him up one day and I said, Grandpa, I'm going to go run that race in Boston. I was 17 years old, a senior in high school. He said, oh, they call that the Boston Marathon. I said, oh, great. It's a good name for it. I said, well, I'm going to go run it. So he said, okay, I'll meet you there, Coolidge Corner. I said, where's that? He said, 24 miles. I said, okay, there's my grandfather. I said, all right, I took off. I got to the hills in Newton and bam, down I go. Dropped out. Got taken to the Newton Wellesley Hospital in an ambulance. Got to the hospital, I called my parents, they picked me up, drove me home. I called my grandfather, no answer. Call him again, no answer. Finally, 9 o'clock at night, he answers the phone. I said, Grandpa, where have you been? He goes, hey, where have you been? I've been waiting for you all night. The old man goes by, Kelly, the street sweepers go by, no Dave. I said, yeah, I quit. He said, you what? I said, I quit. He said, nah, you didn't quit. I said, I didn't. What'd I do? He said, you learned. I said, great. What I learned? He said, you learned that you cannot go along in life and set reckless goals. You know, you got to set goals, but they can't be reckless. You didn't earn the right to do this. I said, you're right. He says, I've cut another deal with you. I said, what? He says, you train, and there's a novelty. You train for the thing, and I'll wait for you. I'll be there waiting for you next year. I said, deal. 2 months later, my grandfather died. And I said, I got to do this for Grandpa. I turned 18 years old. I was running 120, 130 miles a week, you know, and I was ready to go. And the day before the marathon, I got sick. 1973. My parents said, you can't run. I said, I have to run. Newspapers saying, Dave running in memory of grandfather. They said, you're too sick. And I said, yeah, I got to do this. So that's here's the news clip saying Dave running in memory of grandfather. And so they said, okay, fine. So they drove me to the start. I take off. I get to the halfway point. I see my parents. There's my mother. What's she doing? She's crying. Why? Because that's what mothers do. They cry. Why? Because they're in more pain than you'll ever be in, right? They're feeling so bad that you're out there suffering. But there's my father, and what's he doing? He's taking pictures of my mother crying. So I said, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I keep going. I get to the hills where I dropped out the year before, and I'm doing a survivor shuffle over the hills. And I get over the hills, and I finally keep going, and I keep going, and I finally get to Boston College, you know, where the mayor explained where he was, you know, and bam, down I go again. Down I go again. I dropped out second year in a row. Here I want to be an athlete. And I'm the last pick all the time. I'm the last one cut all the time. I drop out of my first Boston Marathon. Now I'm dropping out of my second. I mean, can you say loser? Head in my hand saying this wasn't meant to be. Maybe I should just go do something else. And all of a sudden another defining moment happened. And I turned around and I saw this. That's my grandfather's tombstone. And he's buried in the Evergreen Cemetery. The Evergreen Cemetery, unbeknownst to me at the time, is right on the Boston Marathon course at 21.5, right where I dropped out. And that son of a gun said he'd be there. And there he is. Maybe not physically, but he's there spiritually, right? He kept his end of the deal. I said, I got to keep my end of the deal. I picked myself up and I finished my first marathon ever, 1973. I said, I'm going to run this race every year for the rest of my life in honor of tribute to the lesson my grandfather taught me about earning the right to do these things. And I've run it for the last 48 years in a row. So the comeback is always stronger than the setback. Then I get offered the job to help direct it in 1988. And I had run 15 of these in a row. I was like, what do I do? Do I direct in it? Do I run it? Or do I run in it? Like, I didn't know what to do. I said, I need the job. I need the money. I'll take the job. So I took the job, and I'm standing at the finish line that year's Boston Marathon, 1988, and everyone's finishing. And I had this pit in my stomach. I'm high-fiving everyone, and I'm happy for them, but selfishly, I'm not too happy for myself because I didn't run it. So I tapped the state police trooper on the shoulder. I said, officer, you do me a favor. He said, what? I said, will you drive me back to the start? He says, why? Did you forget something? Yeah, I forgot to run. So he drove me back to the start at 8 o'clock at night, and I took off by myself and finished at 11 o'clock at night, dead last. And I've been the last finisher of the Boston Marathon for the last 33 years. And you know something? I don't care. I'm not in the result booklet. Doesn't matter. My game, my rules. I said I was going to run this thing every year, and I have for again, the last 48 years. And then a friend of mine had biked across the entire United States. And I said, well, if he can bike across, I can run across. And I was working at the time at the John Hancock Tower, and I looked out the window and I saw Fenway Park, and I saw a sign out in right field, and the sign said, help make a dream come true, support the Jimmy Fund. I thought, hey, maybe I'll do it for the Jimmy Fund. I picked up the phone, I called the Jimmy Fund. A guy by the name of Ken Coleman answered the phone. And Ken was the executive director of the Jimmy Fund, and he was the voice of the Boston Red Sox. I said, hi, Mr. Coleman, my name's Dave, and I want to run across the country for the Jimmy Fund. Well, after he picked himself up off the floor, he says, all right, deal. He says, Red Sox will support you. The Jimmy Fund will support you. I said, okay, I got another chance. So I trained and I trained and I trained, and I did it. I ran from Medford, Oregon to Medford, Massachusetts, 3,452 miles in 80 days. 80 days, 45 to 50 miles every single day without a day off for the Jimmy Fund. But I had to find out what this Jimmy Fund was all about. There's a sign out in right field. And I went and I saw those kids. And I saw a sign in the Jimmy Fund Clinic, and the sign said, God made only so many perfect heads. The rest of them have hair on it. And it truly taught me about exactly what we're going through now, what we went through in the bombings in Boston, about turning negatives into a positive. These kids are fighting for their own life here, but they have courage and they have guts to say, I want to live, and I'm going to, and we're going to help them. The battle that I was about to fight by running over 5.5 million footsteps across America was in no way as difficult as the battle that these kids are fighting for their own life, and it's not fair. And so see this little boy, Brendan, and the little girl, Tara, they were my little Jimmy Fund heroes. I didn't even know who they were until the Jimmy Fund introduced me to them. And then they supported my run across the country, supported me for other runs I did for the Jimmy Fund. And then I lost contact with them. And I didn't think they made it, because back then, leukemia and whatnot, that was tough to overcome. And about 1.5 years ago, I was wondering what happened to Brendan and what happened to Tara. And I looked them both up on Facebook, and I found them both alive. Brendan's in Rhode Island and Tara's in Florida. I said, something, folks, this stuff works. The good things that everyone on this call does to give back, to help those who are less fortunate, it works. It saves lives. It saves lives. Then I was given a talk in Boston to an organization, and this woman right here introduces me. I really didn't know who she was. She introduces me, and then she tells me who she is. Tara. 35 years later, there she is. I didn't know. And see, down in the bottom, she's got this 3-ring notebook. In the notebook are postcards in the notebook, 80 of them, one for every day that I ran across the country. I mailed her a postcard from my motorhome every single day as I went across all 13 states, and she saved every one of them. And this is 38 years later, and she still had them, and she keeps looking at them for strength. It's pretty amazing. So here I am running through the desert and whatnot. And I had a support crew of 3-4 guys following me in the motorhome. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was the original Forrest Gump. I don't know why this guy gets all the credit, but be that as it may, the original Forrest Gump, averaging 40, 50 miles a day and so forth. And here I am going across America. I started ceremonially in the Kingdom during a Red Sox Seattle Mariners baseball game and finished in Fenway Park. I mean, look at those players. A lot of you may recognize some of them. There's Jerry Remy there, and Bob Stanley, and Coach Don Zimmer, and just all of them. There's Butch Hobson, and they were going ballistic. It was funny because the Red Sox said, okay, come out of left field, run 3/4 of the way around the warning track, finish at home plate, and then, exit the field. And I said, all right. Well, I come out of left field and I kept going around and around because the crowd was going nuts. They had to call the police on me to pull me off the field. Like, we're going to get this game started here. So that's when I realized that moment, a highlight of my athletic career, that I had finally became the athlete that I had always wanted to be. Yeah, I didn't play second base for the Red Sox. I didn't play in Fenway, but I ran around Fenway. And so my dream did come true. So then I did it again, ran across the country again. I did the Hawaii Ironman in Hawaii a whole bunch of times. I ran up the East Coast of America with a guy named Bob Hall. Bob is the pioneer of wheelchair racing in America. So he pushed the wheelchair 1,522 miles up the entire Eastern Seaboard while I ran next to him, again, raising money for the Jimmy Fund. And then my brother works for the Carroll Center for the Blind in Newton. And he asked me to raise some money for the blind. And I said, what do you want me to do? And he said, I don't know, run the Boston Marathon and raise money. I said, nobody's going to give me any money just to run the marathon, because no one did back then. This past year, we raised $39 million for various charities. But back then, that's not what was going on. So I did run that year's Boston Marathon, raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Carroll Center for the Blind, but I ran it blindfolded. Here I am with two guides guiding me the whole way. I ran the whole thing blindfolded. And it was pretty amazing. I've run 158 marathons, and that's the only one I don't remember because I never saw it. I only heard it, but I was able to get through it in 3 hours and 14 minutes blindfolded. And then I did a 24-hour run and finished at halftime of a New England Patriot game. This Nelly, Steve Nelson from the Patriots, giving me a bear hug. It was easier to run 100. I ran 120 miles in 24 hours, and I felt less pain than the pain I was feeling right there when he was squeezing me. And then I did a New England triathlon and finished at halftime of a game. And it's funny, people say to me all the time, you keep running at the stadiums, how come? I said, well, if I finish in front of my house, I'd have my mother, my father, and 6 squirrels, So you go where the people are so you can raise money for the worthwhile cause. And little kids always ask me, well, what's your greatest accomplishment? And I always say my greatest accomplishment is my next one. I don't want to live off the past. I want to keep setting goals. I want to live for today, plan for tomorrow, keep setting goals, check it off and move on to the next one. Then, speaking of Fenway Park, I decided to put on a marathon inside Fenway. 116 laps on the warning track. I got 50 people together. We raised over $350,000 for the Red Sox Foundation. And I ran a marathon inside Fenway Park. Here we are running lap after lap after lap after lap. Right there I am, MR8, raising money for the Martin Richard Foundation, the little boy who was killed in the bombing. And then, as was said, I ran the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 continents. So we started running in Antarctica, ran a marathon there, jumped on a plane, flew to Cape Town, South Africa, ran a marathon there, jumped on a plane, went to Perth, Australia, ran a marathon there, jumped on a plane, Dubai, Lisbon, Cartagena in South America, and finished in Miami. 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days. That was a blast. So here I am running in Antarctica on the ice. Right there, it's about, 10 below zero or something. Finishing up with all of it, finishing up in Miami, getting a few medals for my trouble. People say, why do you keep doing this stuff? To be relevant. If you want to have an impact, you can't just, again, live off your past. You got to be relevant today. So I keep on setting goals and not limits. And here I am with some of my friends, there's Dave Cowens from the Celtics and Rob Gronkowski, used to be for the Patriots. And there I am standing on a chair so I can have an eye-to-eye conversation with these guys. And feel bad, there's Travis Roy, who just passed away about a few weeks ago. But again, they're all athletes, right? Bob Sweeney from Dennis Eckersley, and Bob Sweeney, and Joni Benoit Samuelson, and Joe Andruzzi, Bill Rogers, and so forth. And I am pushing Rick Hoyt of the father and son team, Dick and Rick Hoyt, finishing a 10K race at the 50-yard line of Gillette Stadium. People say to me all the time, wow, what do you do for work? I say, I don't. They say, you don't work? I said, well, not in the conventional sense of the word. Well, how do you earn a living? said, well, I love what I do so much. And I would like to think that everyone on this call, everyone who owns a business or works a business, you enjoy what you do so much, you don't consider it work. And people say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. And then I saw this billboard. And I said, that's it. That's exactly what I want to be when I grow up. Not a Girl Scout, an accomplisher. I want to be an accomplisher. I just want to set goals, work hard, earn the right, accomplish it, check it off, move on to the next one. So I started my own business, Dave McGillivray Sports Enterprises. And as was said, I put on over 1,300 events all over the country, all over the world, from the Olympic Games to the Boston Marathon to a lot of other local events. But people say to me all the time, you enjoy what you do. I said, yeah, my job's secure. No one else wants it. There I am inside of a dumpster, just whatever it takes, right? So running Boston after running Boston and all kinds of things. People say to me, that must be a lot of pressure to direct a marathon. I say, you crazy? Pressure's a privilege. It's a privilege to do this as long as you're prepared. If you're not prepared, you're going to get eaten alive, right? It's going to come apart at the seams and everyone's going to look at you. So if you're prepared, you do the work, you do the homework, you're ready to go, and you surround yourself with a good team, that's the secret. So I started my own Children's Fitness Foundation and sort of wrapping it up a little bit. Lessons learned. I've learned that there are no mistakes, only lessons, and that the failed experiments are as much a part of the process as the experiment that ultimately works. In other words, the only way in life you can fail, is just not to try. Because if you try and you don't accomplish your goal initially, it's a learning experience. It's not failure. We should always live our dreams, and people who say it cannot be done should not interrupt those who are doing it, right? Don't allow anyone to deter you from your goals. So I wrote this book called The Last Pick for obvious reasons. People say, what's your book about? So it's about the person reading it. If you read the book, it's about you. Everyone on this call is in this book. Because you can identify, we're all in the same, we all go through the same thing. I'm no better than anyone and no one's better than me. We're all in this thing together, right? So we all experience very similar things in our lives. And I just wrote a children's book, Dream Big, because when I was little, but I had big dreams. And the whole idea is to have big dreams and go after them. Then I just wrote this children's book, Running Across America. And I just finished up my third children's book, Finish Strong. So that's coming out in a couple of months. So we should always set goals for ourselves and not limits. And I really believe that the worst injustice we could ever do to ourselves is to underestimate our own ability. And even though a lot of people on this call got an award, and you deserve it, in my life, I've always felt there's no such thing as an individual accomplishment or an award, because it's all about the people you surround yourself with, and for me, yeah, I might get myself from the starting line to the finish line on my own, but I didn't get to the starting line on my own. There's a lot of people who supported me in that effort. So we all have ability. It just takes enough guts to draw that out of ourselves. And I also have learned that no matter where in this country, my car breaks down, I'll be able to run home, which is kind of a good thing. So what happened in Boston in 2013, most of you were around and you saw what I saw, and there I am in the cover of Sports Illustrated down there on the left, and we're all stronger as a result of it. Here are my two kids and my wife. They were sitting in the bleachers when the bombs went off. I had just got in from the lead motorcycle, and everything was great that day. Everything was great. Weather was great. No issues, nothing. I went up to the bleachers, hugged my kids, and then only an hour later, right behind me is where the first bomb went off, and my kids saw everything, unfortunately. But we recovered, and Boston's strong. But as was said, all of a sudden, 2013 wasn't a good year, because that's when I was diagnosed with severe coronary artery disease. And I said to the doctor when I was diagnosed, I said, hey, is this reversible? And he said, it depends. I said, depends on what? He said, it depends on the person. I said, well, you're looking at him. He said, with you and your determination and your effort, I think you can have an impact on your own coronary artery disease. I said, well, sign me up. And I changed everything, and I reversed it by over 40%. That's, I had this coronary artery, and I was able to get through it. And I went back to Hawaii, and I did the Ironman again. And here's a little snippet from that, and I'll finish up.
This is the 2014 Ironman World Championship, presented by GoPro. They all have their reasons. Some come to heal, some for the challenge, and some to inspire. But the goal is the same. When you see these faces, you see little joy. That's because they're going into battle with that inner driving force that dominates their lives. How to be better. How to be dedicated to that. And answer the question, what's the hardest thing I can do? And go get it. An event like the Ironman World Championship is a celebration of the human spirit. When anyone or anything threatens that spirit and passion, the athletic community will respond. In the case of the fateful events that took place at the finish line of the Boston Marathon on April 15, 2013, the entire world responded. On that day, marathon race director David McGillivray was confronted with the unthinkable.
I was actually back out at the start in Hopkinton, and I got a phone call saying what had happened at the finish. We rushed right back. I went into the medical tent, and I realized for the first time how serious this was. I got stopped by a police officer, and he said, "Hey, where you going?" I said, "I'm going up to the finish line." And he said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Well, I'm the race director. Here's my ID." And he said, "It's not your race anymore." Just so emotional to witness all of that. I came home and I saw my family and my 7-year-old son, and he gives me a hug and he said, "Hey, Dad," he says, "I don't want you ever to direct that race again." And I realized for the first time there were a lot of victims, not just those who were physically wounded, but so many other people were victimized by this, even my own family. And then about 2 months later, he came up to me and said, "Hey, Dad, remember I said I never want you to direct that race again?" And I said, "Yeah, Luke, I remember." He says, "You know why?" I said, "Why?" I says, "Because I want to direct it." When we invited people back to run in this race again this year, over 5,000 of them signed up right away. They said, "This is our race, we're coming back and we're going to complete what we started." I really believe that through it all, we became stronger than we've ever been.
Boston Marathon race director David McGillivray persists through the bike and now is in transition too. He gets started on what is a very familiar task, running a marathon. Although the scenery here is much different than Boston, the image is a strong message. No matter what, the ideals that these people have deep to their core cannot be stopped. 2013, Boston. Despair. Today, the opposite.
Having been involved in this industry for the better part of 35 years, when initially I was asked what I did for a living, I used to mumble that I was a race director. What do they do? Chalk mark in the road, yell go. But now when people ask me what I do for a living, I say I help raise the level of self-esteem and self-confidence of tens of thousands of people in America. And really that's what I think this is all about, because that's the very foundation and basis by which you accomplish anything else in your life. When I cross the finish line, it's not going to be my own accomplishment. It's everyone around me that supported me to get to the finish line.
Dave McGillivray, you are an Ironman!
I'd like to, on behalf of the Chamber, thank you very much for your inspirational talk. You have had an outstanding life experience that you've been willing to share with us today, and we want to wish you all the best, both personally and for the marathon in Boston. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
Dave, we'd like to send that video to everyone as with a thank you note, so people can see it. So if you can send that link to us, Lexi will send it out to everyone so they can view it. Thank you.
Definitely.
Want to remind everyone to check their email when the program concludes to see if you have won any of the 20 gift card door prizes being given away today in support of local restaurants, eateries, and food shops. And now I'd like to thank a few people and organizations that made today's program possible. Our premier sponsors, Sharon Crescent United Credit Union, SCU, UMass Donahue Institute, Mass Hire, Brockton Career Center, and Bridgewater State University. Thank you also to our supporting sponsors, OCES, Eastern Bank, JM Pet Resort, Northeastern Savings Bank, Mass Hire, Greater Brockton Workforce Board, Good Samaritan Medical Center. In addition, I'd like to thank Dave McGillivray, Rick Morgan Photography, The Enterprise, Fusion Dolls, Teen Challenge, especially Dylan White and the very talented chef Charles Herman, and the talented chamber staff who have made this program possible. Thank you all for attending, and thank you for your continued support of the chamber. This concludes the Metro South Chamber of Commerce 107th annual meeting. Have a great day and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you and stay safe.